Okay, so the other day I uploaded this YouTube short talking about how Jeff Nippard was saying stretch-mediated hypertrophy is great, this awesome thing. The hamstrings grow 1.5 times more in the seated leg curl versus the lying leg curl, and I had some people ask me some questions about that. So I wanted to make this video to kind of explain exactly what stretch-mediated hypertrophy is and why you may or may not want to incorporate it into your training and the benefits of it and everything like that. So first off, before I talk about that study, I want to get into kind of the 1,000-foot view, really generalization of what stretch-mediated hypertrophy is. We're going to have a bit of an anatomy lecture right now. You have a muscle fiber. In that fiber, you have fascicles. And these fascicles are the smallest unit of muscle, and they're basically like these really, really thin strands of just the muscle contractile tissue. It's not just one long cell. Each fascicle has these other cells in them called sarcomeres. These sarcomeres are the contractile unit of a muscle. I'll put some diagrams next to me to kind of illustrate what I'm trying to say. When you undergo stretch-mediated hypertrophy, you are essentially increasing the amount of sarcomeres in a fascicle. So if you increase the sarcomere, their resting length is a given amount, but you're squeezing more into the given length of a fascicle. So when you squeeze it, it's going to bulge out the sides, and that's what's going to make the muscles look bigger. If they're all bulging out the sides, then they're going to look like they are larger. So that is what stretch-mediated hypertrophy is. It's also called sarcomerogenesis, and essentially that adaptation that occurs from the deep stretch is very short-lived. It seems to only occur for between 6 weeks and 3 months. And after that 3 months, if you don't do it, it'll regress back to what the muscle fascicle looked like before. So yes, it will produce muscle growth, but it's not the same type of growth as the traditional hypertrophy, which is increasing the actual cross-sectional area. So if you take a muscle fiber and you slice it in half, how big that looks. That's kind of like how wide the diameter of the muscle fiber is. That's more traditional hypertrophy. This will produce growth, but it's not going to be as sustainable or long-term. What you can do is you can do these exercises that will stimulate sarcomerogenesis, but once you have developed these adaptations, you really don't need to do that much in order to maintain them. Let's say you do sissy squats to really stretch out the quads and get that stretch-mediated sarcomerogenesis adaptation. What you can do is you're doing, let's say, 3 sets of them twice a week in addition to your other quad work. After 3 months or so, you can just drop it down to 1 set twice a week. And what this will do is it will maintain that adaptation that you have of these longer fascicles without causing unnecessary fatigue, and you can focus your leg volume, quad volume on more effective quad exercises to grow your quads, less so focus on that stretch. If you want to keep the sissy squats in and you like them, that's fine, but what I'm saying is you don't need to do that, and that's not necessarily going to give you more growth than doing any other given exercise. So the other important thing to keep in mind is that not every muscle undergoes sarcomerogenesis. So certain muscles you're not able to stretch to the point where those sarcomeres will undergo enough stimulus that they feel the need to add more of them. So for example, the biceps, yes, you can stretch it behind the shoulder, but it doesn't make a difference in our case. So I'm just, for ease of illustration, the bicep can only extend to your elbow, however far your elbow extends. Once you get to that point, you can't stretch the bicep out. Again, yes, you can stretch it out this way, but it doesn't make a difference. It still doesn't reach that point, so this is just easier to explain. Once you get to that point, because you're not able to stretch it anymore, there's no way to stretch the sarcomeres out any longer than they are right now, or the fascicles. So you can't get that stretch-mediated hypertrophy. There was a study that showed that preacher curls from here to here grew your biceps more than from here to here. And I believe it was also more than the full range of motion. Just because that study showed that doesn't mean that it was stretch-mediated hypertrophy. Just because you're training a muscle at a longer muscle length, so the bicep is longer here than it is here. So yes, you are training it at a longer muscle length. First off, that's not stretch-mediated hypertrophy, and that doesn't necessarily mean every muscle grows better at longer lengths. The biceps do because of this concept called neuromechanical matching, which I will get into in another video. But the triceps don't, the back doesn't, Like, not every muscle group will benefit from this. Some muscles, yes, they will. So what I was getting at was certain muscles will undergo stretch-mediated hypertrophy. Not all of them. The ones that will are the chest and then pretty much the lower body. So your hamstrings, your glutes, and your quads. So, like I said, you can do one set of leg extensions in the deep stretch or sissy squats after you've built that adaptation up over time. That doesn't mean you need to always do it. That also doesn't mean that you have to do it in general. I personally don't implement any stretch-mediated hypertrophy work into my program right now, and that's okay. I'm sure I'm still getting a little bit because I don't neglect the full range of motion. But just because you're not focusing on it doesn't mean you're not going to get any adaptation from it. It also doesn't mean that you're not going to grow at all. This is not the main focus of what your training should be. The main focus of your training should be stable exercises that you feel strong in, doing a moderate amount of volume with a high level of effort, and trying to progressively overload over time. That is what will give you long-term sustainable growth for your entire training career. Versus stretch-mediated hypertrophy will give you a marginal amount of an increase in growth for the given muscles that it works for a short amount of time, as long as you maintain those adaptations. See what I'm getting at? Like, it's not exactly the be-all, end-all, and I just want to help you guys understand the physiology behind it and how it could help you understand the benefits and the use cases of this training style. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. If enough people are still confused, I'll try to make another video explaining it. This is my longest video that I've made so far, so if it's a little rambly, that is to be expected. But if you guys enjoyed and you felt that you got a lot out of it, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate it. But yeah, besides that, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be making more of these soon. So see you guys then.